Hi, everyone. I'm Amy,
And I'm Audrea.
and this is the right crowd. So grab a thermal of coffee,
Or a thermal mug of tea.
maybe a little something on the rocks. So let's get started. We both got thermals today. That's awesome.
That's cool. What a coinky dink.
Alrighty. So today we are finishing up part 2 of 27 Essential Principles of Story. We have been going along 2 chapters at a time. This one, we're going to throw a little wrench in and we're going to do 3 so we can finish up part 2 all in one happy video, nice little bow, and be done with part 2.
Yes. Hey, by the way, if you have any suggestions for books you'd like to see us do, books about writing or productivity, please drop them in the comments. Drop anything in the comments. We'd appreciate it. Are
Just
you there?
talk to us.
All right. So speaking of talk to me, Amy, about chapter 17, earn transformations.
So the first thing that I noticed in here is when the quick take part at the beginning, he says, if nothing changes, nothing substantive happens. And that's not just in story, that's in life.
Yeah.
It stays stagnant if nothing changes. So if you want your readers to follow along and be interested in your story, you have to make changes along the way. There has to be something progressing or digressing, whichever way you want to take it, but there has to be change going on in order for your story to be a story.
Correct. And as we read in a previous chapter, your story is going to be about how your character reacts to things that you put in their way, obstacles, conflict, bad stuff happens. And when bad stuff happens, how does your character react? And so that's what we're talking about here in chapter 17 with transformations. And at the top, he has a quote from Walter White from Breaking Bad. And I like this one. The protagonist, Walter White of Breaking Bad, said, technically, chemistry is the study of matter, but I prefer to see it as the study of change, which is kind of cool.
And it's, yep. Okay, did you get anything else in the quick take section?
One thing on the quick take section. So we talked about Godfather in one of the other chapters about all the bad things that happened to Michael Corleone and how he reacts to them. And in this one, he brings up Michael Corleone again. And he says, when Michael Corleone transforms from a decorated Marine to the Godfather in the first film, and from alive to spiritually dead in the second film, your heart sinks because the change is so convincing. If it had been obvious, or if there could have been any other way for him to go, it wouldn't have been the classic film that it is. So that change from kind of could have been a good guy, Michael Corleone could have been a good guy, to becoming the Godfather, that was well earned and well written in that particular movie and book.
So I guess I should watch The Godfather?
Yeah, there's so many others that you could watch that have great transformations, but it is a classic. And I have to admit, I have only seen Godfather one time, and it was under duress because I don't like gangster movies typically, although there's some other ones I like with Al Pacino that just, well, like Casino.
I mean, I love Al Pacino.
I love Al Pacino.
I
but
mean,
I knew I didn't want to see Godfather because it just seemed so dark to me. But I was in a film study class, and it's a classic for all the reasons. So we had to watch The Godfather, but that's the only time. I thought I had never seen it all the way through. And I think we mostly watched it scene by scene, studying the scene. So it wasn't like you were watching a whole.
right.
So but if you like that, I mean, if you like Al Pacino, it's a good movie. Stuff
Well,
happens. It's a
this is
reference.
how I get those sometimes with actors or like characters in a book.
Mhm.
If I think it's going to change how I feel about that person or that character, I don't want to watch it.
Oh,
Like Hunger Games,
yes.
I read the first book, literally could not put it down. My mom was like, "What are you reading?" Because I literally walked around the house with the book in my hand. Like, I
Yeah.
think I read it in one day. And I loved how the first book ended. And I knew it was going to change so much after that, I literally never read any other Hunger
Oh,
Games. I haven't
nice.
seen any of the movies. I saw the first one and I read the first book. Don't want any more
Wow.
because I knew things were going to happen and I didn't want to happen. So
Wow. I
yeah,
can see that though. Yeah.
I kind of feel that way about Al Pacino. Like, I think he's a great actor, but I don't know what that movie's going to do to my opinion of things.
Gonna make you seem as I mean,
I don't want to see him as an evil bad guy.
he's always an evil bad guy. Which Al
It's a
Pacino is
different evil bad guy in Godfather.
okay. It's a painful fall.
Yeah.
Just yeah.
I mean, I know say hello to my little friend. I know that part, but
Yes.
I'm just
He comes in as a bad guy in Scarface. Nothing good happens. But anyway,
yeah.
we digress.
But that just means that those authors and the screenwriters did their job well
Really
in
well.
the transformation.
Exactly. Thank you.
Exactly.
To bring us all back to why it's so good to write a really well-earned transformation for your characters in your book. And so how it works, he talks about why it's so important, which we just went well into why it's so important to earn transformation. But I'm going to jump right down to the bottom of the paragraph. Before I do that, or bottom of that section, but before I do that, what did you take from how it works?
So there's a couple things that I noted. The first one is at the beginning of that section, and it said, "Good stories are filled with meaning. They're not just a list of random events." So that was the first thing I took away. A- And I think the point of this is you can't just be like A plus B equals C. You have to be A plus 8.2 plus 8.3 plus 8.4 equals B equals C.1, C.2. Like, you have to add things along the way.
Progression.
You
Mhm.
can't just yeah. The other thing I marked is it says at the end of that first paragraph, it says, "If these
Oh,
changes are not earned, they feel like a hustle. They feel like lies."
okay, so yeah, that was what I was gonna say about that section. And again, you guys know if you're new here, Amy and I just talk about books, about writing and productivity, and talk about what we've learned from those and how they inform our own writing. And so in this particular example, what I used in the how it worked or this particular chapter about transformations was in my book, how my character has to go from a person who thinks lying is okay to because that's the way she was raised, till she has to start being honest with certain people in her life. And so I I had a problem when I initially started writing it, and in that she was just I couldn't get her there because in the way she was raised, lying was okay, and she would lie to suit her purposes, but she still had a very significant bent towards justice. She wanted to help innocent people not get go down for a crime they didn't commit and that sort of thing. But she couldn't connect with people in her life that she wanted to connect with. And I didn't realize at first that that connection wasn't happening because she was still lying to everybody who she wanted to be close to. And so they were never seeing the real part of her. And so I had to make her transform from a person who lied all the time for no reason sometimes to a person that uses that skill selectively.
It is a skill if
And
you can
so
do it well.
that's true. So she had to transform from book to book in the series. But all right, so we can go to you talked about what I was going to talk about the math. One thing I was going to just point out was that things you have to consider with the transformation again, what you said, the distance traveled, how far they have to come. Like Michael Corleone had to go from this good guy to then the Godfather. And then further on in the other books, the change comes hard. If it doesn't come hard, then the story's probably not interesting. And then the psychological insight that we as authors have to provide for our readers. One thing that I did highlight there in that last second to the last paragraph was we come to storytellers to find the truth. And that was just because the truth in life or the truth in stories. And I thought that was a good point. Okay, I'm done with that section.
Okay, so the first point was distance traveled.
Yes.
So, under distance traveled, I wanted to point out that change must be earned by making each step along the journey convincing. So, it's not just A plus A.1 plus A.2.
Right.
Like, you have to make it convincing. You have to, like, don't just randomly make them do something that makes no sense and doesn't connect anywhere. Like, it has to make sense. And then the other thing is at the end of that section, it says the key point here is to be aware of the distance your hero's transformation travels so that you can know what you'll need to make it authentic. So, yeah, he goes from nice guy to the Godfather, but that doesn't happen overnight. Like, you have to make it an authentic journey for your readers or your watchers to follow it and believe it. You need to make it believable.
Right.
Did you have anything in that section?
Not in that section. Well, one thing in that section, you do want to, as he says in that same paragraph at the end of the top of that first section, is you also want to factor in your genre when you are doing these earned transformations. And he just mentions the Marvel story of Ms. Marvel that we did in chapter 13. But your genre, if it's a romance, how the heroine comes to trust the hero or whatever, or how they end up together is a good point. And when we read romances, sometimes, for those of us who read romances, sometimes we get to the end, especially if it's a quick romance, which there are these insta romances. We did an episode about
Yes, we
short
did.
romance. You can go back and look at that. But if it's a short romance, sometimes it's not as satisfying if they wind up together and they didn't earn that togetherness. They just, I saw you, I love you, and now you're mine. Not just some stuff that happened. So anyway, that was all.
That happens in the second grade.
Yeah. Will you go with steady with me? Yes. Okay. We
Mark, yes or no.
all right. Change comes hard is the next section.
And what do you have marked in it?
All right. So in that section, I just had he mentioned in chapter 5, escalate risk, that the humans are hardwired. And for those of you who are new here, I'm normally in another state. I'm here visiting family, and I left my book back home in South Dakota. And so I have this book. I have this book in 3 versions, and it tells you how much I like this book. But I'm looking at my Kindle on a screen. But anyway, so the escalate risk. Humans are hardwired to conserve energy and avoid loss. And so when you make them do something to get you for that transformation, things have to get pretty hard, basically, for a person to change, for a person to leave their comfort zone. Boy, don't I know it. For anything in life, we talked about that with productivity and getting rid of bad habits. Things have to get pretty hard, pretty bad before humans will make the extra effort to change. And so I thought that was an important part for me to remember when in my own writing.
Well, real life example. Because we've talked about in other videos our weight struggles. And I have realized that my car now is not comfortable to sit in because I have gained so much weight.
No. Oh my God.
So change comes hard. But over the next couple of months, you're going to see my face thinning out because I'm tired of my hip hurting. Like,
That's terrible.
like that's what it takes. Forget the fact that my clothes are getting too small. Forget the fact that I'm constantly doing this, trying to like not show this part. I can't sit properly in my chair, in my car.
Oh,
My
dear.
hip's starting to hurt. I thought I was just getting old. I turned 50 this month. I thought I was getting old. No, it's my car
Wow.
because my seats are not made for heavy set people. And I'm getting up to the heavy set part.
Oops.
So,
Yeah.
so like life example, something major has to happen to get us as humans to change.
True.
Parlor donut, goodbye.
Okay. All right. So the next section. Oh, did you have anything else in Change Comes Hard? That was a life example.
I did, but even when it's for the better, we fear change. It's uncomfortable and it's unknown, and we fear that it can make our loved ones see us differently. And so that's one of the reasons you have to make it so believable, is that it is so hard for people to actually make changes. You like me the way that I am. Why would I want to change that? Why would I want to do anything differently? So keeping that in mind when you write, maybe you don't like me the way I am, but I don't know that.
Yeah.
So I just want to keep myself the way I am.
Mm.
All right. Psychological insight. What'd you write?
I did not have a lot in this, except I dropped down to the middle where it says, "So how do you know if you've nailed it? If the change you've written has been truly earned?" There's two helpful words to consider are transcendence and resonance. So when your story captures an authentic transformation, the character seems to transcend the story. And there are many examples of characters like Katniss Everdeen. She transcended, even in book one, she transcended the story. And then the character feels archetypal. What they become at the end of the story represents a primal aspect of the human experience. And then the resonance, if it has resonance with your readers, it's again one of that they'll harken back like Walter White. He resonates with a lot of people because he was a normal guy wanting a normal thing, a night to do a nice thing. And his fall from grace was so hard and such a big fall that that character resonates. Like I would want to do things, but would I do that stuff? And anyway, that's what I had for psychological insight.
That is also the only spot that I highlighted. So we can move on.
Okay. There's one thing I will say about Mr. Rubin. He does such a great job in his book of referencing because there's these 27 essential principles of story are going to help you write a good screenplay, a good novel, a good short story, we referenced in another episode, he used Stan, which is it's not hip hop, rap, song,
Eminem.
a classic Eminem song. So it's going to help you write good story. And he does a great job of referencing. Remember, we talked about this in chapter 22, craft actionable dialogue. Remember, this was chapter 5. So you can go back and remember those things. I love this book. It's so well written. All right, let's go to how a master did it.
I did not read, or I don't even know if this is a movie for. Oh, it's a comic strip. That's right. It's a comic strip. I thought it was interesting that, like, so he uses the Alison Bechdel, I think that's how you say her name. She wrote Fun Home, which was a comic strip, or it was a graphic whatever with panels.
Right.
And she did it as a way to deal with, like, to get over her relationship with.
Yeah.
And I think it's awesome that she was able to do that in comic strip form,
Yeah.
but it showed the progression and it helped her heal.
Yeah.
Which I think is, I've never heard of Fun Home. For some people, I'm sure it hit home.
Right. Yeah.
I like that if she was able to make it healing. Even if she's the only one that healed from it, she was able to use it to heal herself.
Well,
But it showed the progression of from start to finish.
Exactly. And I had never read this one, and it wouldn't be in my wheelhouse to read typically. But again, as Mr. Rubin always does, he gives you the stuff you need from whatever classic he's referencing for this particular story essential. He lays it all out for you, so you feel like if you haven't seen it, you know why it's so great. But this one actually, it must have resonated with a number of people because it did. It appeared in the Guardian, which is a major newspaper, and it won some awards. So it
It was
resonated,
turned into a musical
turned into a musical even. So
and won a Tony.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, so this is obviously a classic. I could feel for this girl as I was reading this story. I felt for her and that relationship. But towards the end, what he writes is there's no great catharsis, no false moments of divine revelation, no radical change in their relationship. But there's the sense that in her eyes, he became just human and fallible enough to ease her resentment. So that was that catharsis that she went through. And then what he said about it was the authenticity of her hard fought transformation from a repressed and troubled girl to a free and confident woman is a major reason the work has won so many accolades and was turned into a Tony Award winning musical. So when you can write your truth or the truth of your character so well that it resonates with other people, you'd get this kind of, I mean, how awesome for her. She got that catharsis. She was helped by it, but also she a Tony Award winning musical and major newspapers and other awards. So it's pretty cool.
Yeah. At the very end of that chapter, it also says that it tells us that if we fight the good fight long enough, we can make peace with ourselves.
Yeah.
And
And
I
that's
think,
what they say for like people who write memoir. That's I used to wonder, why are there so many memoirs? Like I pick up a memoir of a person who was 22 years old. I'm like, what have you got to talk about that? But they're
I think clothes older than you. Like,
But it's not, yeah, and I have learned it's not about that. There people have been through things and they're sharing those things and it's helping them and it's helping other people. And I you get something from anything that's well written. And when people share their truth, you can get something from it. So
yeah,
cool. All right. So the next section is how you do it. So this is
I
where
didn't highlight anything else the rest of the book. So it's all on you now. I'll sit back and listen.
okay. Well, it's just the next section is the how you do it, which is where the author, Mr. Rubin, tells us how to apply this particular essential to your story or your whatever your work is. And I love that he does that. Just one day I'm going to meet Mr. Rubin. I'm going to shake his hand. I'm going to say, by golly, you did it a writing craft book the way they should be done. Tell us what to do, show us how somebody who did it masterfully did it and how they did it. Break it down for us like you would,
Yeah.
in a class, and then say how I can apply that to my own stuff. And then test me on it at the end with a mini final exam. I love it. So anyway, in the how you do it for this particular essential story, he has you, I won't go through all the steps because we never read word for word. I want you to buy the book or read the book or listen to the book. But identify the transformation that occurs in your character. Jot it down in the simplest form. And then all the way through, that's the first step. And then he has you break out a notebook and sketch. And then he tells you to go through the essentials, consider your genre. I'm going to read just that one. And the distance traveled. Again, some stories travel a great distance, and the hero undergoes immense change. Others explore smaller transitions, minute detail. What kind of change are you tracking? So that's the kind of thing he gives you instructions or just like guidance on how you can do it in your own story. And does it very well. And then so that's transformations or earned transformations. And then at the end, of course, there's always the mini final exam. And I got that one right.
Let
And
me
that
let
was
me see. Yes, I got that one right too.
And so then it's the continuing ed, which I did read, or actually, did I read it? No, I didn't read it. I saw the movie, which is the 1981 romantic comedy horror film, which I did. I might have to go back and watch that because I
I've
remember,
never watched it, but now I feel like I need to because
yeah,
the romantic comedy horror.
yeah, I remember the horror and I remember there was some humor in it, which I always love humor with everything, but I don't remember the romance, but it's another classic, but again, I had seen that one. So he tells you about the transformation of this character from going from a normal person. It's called American Werewolf, so that's not a spoiler, but into becoming a werewolf and how that impacts his life. So that was chapter 17. Now we move on to motivate fierce antagonists.
The antagonist has one purpose: to prevent your hero from acquiring their object of desire. Okay, we're done.
That's a very good point. I I liked that he always starts with some quote from either a writer or a character. This one was from Wells Root, the screenwriter. Say you're, let's say you pick as your villain a gutless pigeon, a gabby, twitching nobody. Your protagonist needs very little heroic savvy to wipe him out. So that's not the whole quote, but that's just part of it. So if you pick this gutless pigeon, you don't need a really bad or a really strong protagonist to overcome a pigeon. So just
He's
make
but to fly.
his butterfly. Make sure your antagonist is on par or actually challenges your hero. And
Yeah.
when people do that, that's when you get a, a, a work of art or something that resonates and something that stands the test of time. Like you've got an antagonist like Darth Vader, then you've got Luke Skywalker and all the changes Luke Skywalker. That's another good example of a transformation that he had to go through to defeat the enemy there. But anyway, so did you have anything for how it works
I
or
have one more thing in the quick take.
okay, yes.
So at the end of the quick take, he says you must create fiercely motivated antagonists and write them with the same passion, intensity, depth, and commitment as your main character. So just like Audrea just said, it's Darth Vader versus Luke Skywalker. It's not Darth Vader versus one of the minions from Despicable Me. Like,
Oh,
what was that?
entertaining as heck, wouldn't it?
Did you see his little lightsaber? No, I have it in my brain.
Oh my
No, I have it in my
gosh.
brain.
All right.
So yeah, so you have to have them matchy-matchy. That's all it said. And then in how it works, I did highlight on page 227. The important point is, regardless of the rationale, antagonists are dedicated to preventing the hero from acquiring their object of desire. And it doesn't have to make sense to us.
Mhm.
It only has to make sense to the antagonist.
Yes, which is such a cool point. It just has to make sense to them.
Yeah.
Which I don't know if it was this book or another book that we went over where we talked about the hierarchy of needs and how you need food, water, shelter, and you need belonging and all these things. And I read a book. One of the things that can motivate an antagonist is the fear of death. And we talked about this in another book, but fear of death. And it could not, that fear of death might not be fear of physical death, like they're going to die and not be alive anymore. It might be the death of an identity, like their person. They are seen as a pillar of the community and they're looked up to. And if the hero is going to reveal something about that antagonist that would wipe that away, that would shame him or his family, he might be motivated to do some serious damage to make sure that doesn't happen. But one of the things I highlighted in this section is a little higher up. It's there are different types of antagonists. An antagonist can be a person with good or evil intentions, any other living creature, a supernatural being, an element or force of nature, an aspect of the hero's own personality. And sometimes there's no sometimes there's no formal single antagonist in the story. The forces that stand in opposition to the hero might vary and function in aggregate as an antagonist. And he talks about all of those. Again, does a masterful job of saying antagonist might not be the same. Like Darth Vader is a person. Luke Skywalker is a person. It could be, you know, Moby Dick. The whale was actually they say, but anyway, but you know what I'm saying, or the whale. Those environmental stories where they're fighting against a river or a.
Well, like, what was the movie with Matt Damon and he got stuck on Mars?
The Martian.
Oh, yeah. I thought that was the name of it. I was like, that can't be it. But like Mars, the weather on Mars, the atmosphere on Mars, that was the antagonist.
That movie was both so good, so very good. All right, so I don't have, there's a lot of good stuff in that how it works where he explains the antagonist. I didn't have anything else there.
The only other thing I have is that right at the end, before How a Master Did It,
yes,
its whole paragraph is super
part.
good, but there's one part that I highlighted. The part I highlighted said, what they must do is present powerful obstacles for your hero to overcome in order to secure their object of desire. They have to provide the obstacles.
Yes. And that is one I have to admit I struggle with. Because I mean, they have to be powerful obstacles. So when I'm writing, I write many things, but one of the things that I'm currently writing.
What are you currently working on?
Is the cozy mystery or traditional mystery series. And so I have an antagonist. And in traditional mysteries, the hero never knows who the antagonist is, who the murderer is until the very end. And then it's you in the library with the wrench or whatever it was. But even though they don't know who the antagonist is, they don't see them, that antagonist still has to work against the truth coming out. And so setting that up I struggle with just me as an author. But so reading books like this is how I get better at it, is seeing how a master does it. But so next is How a Master Did It, the piano lesson by August Wilson. from it's 1936 it was written.
Yeah, I didn't read it, write it, listen to it. I have no idea. I've never even heard of it.
It's an oldie, but it's a goodie. They made a film of it, and I did see the film, and it's it's a good film. I mean, it's a good story, obviously. So explains, as he does, all of the points about who the antagonist is. And in
Right.
this one, it's a good example of we said antagonist could be another person, it could be weather, it could be whatever it is, an animal. But in this story, there's two protagonists actually, and they are in opposition to each other, and they are their own. Each one is the hero of their own story. Even any antagonist is going to be the hero of their own story.
Yeah.
I've seen the movie. So at one point, was rooting for the sister. At one point, I was rooting for the brother, although I didn't like him very much. But I saw what he wants this piano. It's called the piano lesson. He wants the piano to sell it so he can buy land and farm where their family was held as slaves. And it's a great reason. And the piano will help him do that. It's just a piano. But no, it's not just a piano. To her, it means something. So it's something a lot more.
For her, it's family.
It's
Like
family. It's
yeah.
it's got history and yeah. So anyway, it's a good, very good story. But there was one thing I wanted to say. He referenced the central dramatic question. So Bernice is the sister. She's the other heroine. She is the hero of the story. Her object of desire is to keep the piano. Her central dramatic question, and that we talked about way back in the first part of this book, is simply, will Bernice keep the piano? For Bernice, Boy Willie is the antagonist. In order to acquire or keep her object of desire, she must repel or defeat Boy Willie. And so there's a different CDQ for Boy Willie. For him, will he get the piano? That's his central dramatic question. So it's a really great example of how you can have two heroes who oppose each other and they become their own antagonists, each other's antagonists. All right. So how do you, you didn't have anything else in this section. How do you do it? Again, he goes over the points of how you would write a worthy antagonist.
Well, the first thing you do is when you create your antagonists, you view them as the hero. It's the first thing you do, according to.
Which I just want to say is masterful. If you are stuck in your particular story, screenplay, book, whatever it is, and you are stuck, just looking at your antagonist from that viewpoint and writing the story from that viewpoint can help you. It changes everything. It actually changes everything.
You make him the hero. He's not the bad guy. Then you're able to see his point of view and write him better.
Yeah.
And you're able to see how who's really the protagonist, how they are his antagonist, and be able to write relationship.
Yeah.
Better.
Which I love it. You can tell that there are authors who have done that and have made great books and stories doing that. For example, Maleficent. I love the story of Maleficent. I can't say her name.
They only had so many bobblehead pup, whatever they're called. One of them is Maleficent.
She's magnificent. And she was made even more magnificent when we got to see the story from her point of view.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh my gosh, she's so misunderstood.
I don't like her in Sleeping Beauty, but as Maleficent.
As Maleficent, yeah. And I've seen other ones.
Like you got to see her, her soul.
Yeah. And they're doing the same thing, a new version of Cinderella. It's from the evil stepmother side.
There's no.
I know. I didn't see that really.
No.
But
no. She's evil.
Evil. All right.
So her name, evil step,
for a reason. It's the name for a reason.
She tried to keep love. No. Nothing.
How do you really feel about it though, Amy? I
don't know. I have no opinions. Said me never.
All right. So
just ask Randy. He knows I have all the opinion. All the opinion. All right. So how do you do it? So we already said view them as a hero. The other thing I highlighted was know why your antagonist is opposed to the hero acquiring their object of desire. There has to be a reason they're against each other.
Yes.
And I think sometimes the hero is not going to know that there's even someone, like they know there's a problem, but you may not understand, they may not understand why there's a problem, but you need to understand why there's a problem from from the antagonist's point of view.
Yes.
Because if you don't understand their point of view, why is there a problem? Like, it just doesn't make sense.
It doesn't. Yeah. And that's some of the stories that fall a little flat that I've read. It's like, well, why did he do that? I need to know why.
Yeah.
Which is one of the reasons I don't get into true crime or watching these real things, because often they don't know the reason because it's real life. And the person doesn't say, I killed them because this. They usually say, I didn't do it. And you'll never know the real reason why they didn't do it. They come up with suppositions and they make it up from there. But unless that person says, you're not going to know. And first of all, I don't get into true crime and real life crime because it's too sad, but also because of that. There's no good stories. I mean, you don't know the reason why. Sometimes it doesn't make sense. Sometimes they're just bad villains. And that's one of the other reasons why I don't like slasher films. I mean, I like the funny slasher films. And again, those are the ones where like Jason stabby, 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 because there's no reason. If there's no reason, I just can't. It's just boring chase after chase after chase for me. But the other, you highlighted that particular one, know why. And I also highlighted that and be specific. And that will help you to write your story. So the next one that I highlighted was make it personal and leverage your own experience to help you with writing your antagonists. So those are a couple of the bullets that he writes in here. And what I do is when we go through one of these essentials, I always try to apply it either to something I'm currently writing or the never-ending edits of a particular book that have
Never
been.
ending edit.
This helps me with editing and rewrites. So, all right. So that was the chapter 18. The continuing ed for chapter 18 was The Robber Bride. And I had not read The Robber Bride, but from how she describes it, I may go in and read that. It sounds like a very good story. But
Charlie's trying to get in my lap and he can't do it. I'm too high up today.
oh, all right. So coming up to Confronting Evil, chapter.
Now, this one I think is the best one. And I like that he starts with, this could be hard to read, and if it's not for you, move on.
Yeah. And
He starts it that way. So anyway, Confront Evil. What would you like to say about it?
I didn't have anything in the quick take. In the how it works though, I went to evil. Wait, do you have anything in the quick take?
I had one thing,
Okay.
and it was kind of like, to me, it kind of felt like there should be like a little asterisk in it next to it.
Mhm.
And it said, when you confront evil in your work, rest assured that real people who has suffered real harm will find it. You owe it to them to approach the subject with love, courage, empathy, dignity, and respect.
Yes.
Because he's talking about real life abuses and terror, that if you choose to put that in your work, make sure you have respect for the people that have actually had those things happen to them.
Yes. Yeah.
That's why I feel like it should have a little asterisk to like draw your eye to this point. Have respect for the people who have actually had this happen to them.
That's a good, yeah, and that's a very compassionate point to make in these. The first part that I had highlighted is the first sentence actually of how it works. Evil is the conscious infliction of suffering on people who do not deserve to suffer. That is his definition of evil. The aggressor knows what they're doing. They choose to harm people. That is evil. And I thought that was a good, succinct way to define it. And to talk.
At the bottom of the page, he's quoting from a book called People of the Lie by M. Scott Peck. And it says, evil is that which kills spirit. Thus, we may break a horse or even a child without harming a hair on its head.
Yeah. Eek. Yeah.
And I do like true crime stories because I write across all genres.
Mhm.
Right now, I'm focusing on a rom-com cozy. Like, it's a little mix of everything, but I do have stuff that I have written and that I'm working on that is not lighthearted.
Darker.
And actually, there's one where my mom read the beginning of it, and she looked at me and said, "Who are you?" Because it was so messed up. Okay. So I do like reading or listening to true crime.
Okay. So the one that he wrote, this hardly ever happens. When in the 27 chapters, 18 or 19 that we've done so far, that we both read the primary How a Master Did It. But
Well, it wasn't hard. That's
but because he puts the whole thing in,
holy. And it's
but
a page and a half. It was easy.
it's the lottery, which I mean, I read it in school, but yeah, it's the lottery, which is a disturbing story. I remember reading it when I was in school, and disturbing stories are the worst one. That's the one because they're senseless violence. He mentions that it's senseless. I remember reading that at school, going, I don't feel good anymore about life. Is that am I
That
broken?
means the author did their job.
This story broke me, I think. But yeah, so it is The Lottery, written in 1948 by Shirley Jackson, is what he uses for How a Master Did It to depict evil, and the confrontation of evil, and how poor Shirley Jackson, the author, was basically attacked and just not. I mean, she people despised her for writing the story because it was so disturbing to them.
Well, I think for some of them, it was also kind of too close to home
Yeah,
because it was around the time of Hitler
yeah.
and it was hard for people. I know when I read it, my thought was she would have preferred one of her children get picked? Like,
Yes.
I don't understand. To me, I would have been like, "We don't have to draw straws. I take the short straw." Like,
Yes.
"Babe, take care of the kids." Like, what?
Right. I
Or
vol
why didn't the husband step up and be like, "Stop," like Everdeen did in Hunger Games.
I
"No,
was
stop.
thinking that. I volunteer
I'll
as
be
tribute.
tribute."
Yeah.
Like, but no, she's like, basically, she doesn't wanna prove that she's the one that did it. So what, you want Junior to be the one? Like, really? I don't know. That's where I had a hard part, but I didn't have a hard part, like, the way that she was attacked. Like, that wasn't the thing for me. That was just like, why didn't one of the like, why was that not a voluntary.
Well, one of the things that was a huge part for me, that she would say, "Take one of the kids, don't take me."
Do it again. Really?
Yeah, do it again. But that the town, they talked about how other towns have done away with the lottery, but they still do it. So they didn't have to do it. There was nothing in the story that told us they were compelled to do it. There was a shortage of food. I mean, so there was no reason. And again, so it's senseless violence, it's evil. And even the kids picked up a rock. And so, anyway,
And the other towns didn't do it. Why didn't they move?
yeah,
I mean, yeah, it's
exactly.
1948, so it might be as easy to move, but there's a wagon. Move if you got to. Like, I don't understand. Anyway,
Which is the power of that story, the power of Shirley Jackson's story.
yeah.
All right. So, how do you do it?
The first thing you need to do is approach the topic with respect.
Yeah.
That's the first thing I highlighted. And literally, I looked down and he said, "How do you do it?" And I was like, "Oh, the first thing."
And that's a very good thing.
And so I highlighted a couple of chapters, like little major bullet points. I don't want to read the whole thing. The only other thing that well, there's two I want to read, is towards the end. It says, "Look for the connection between your hero and your villain. They're often reflections of each other, and both are part of you." And the thing that made me do that is because in order for me to put it on paper, it had to come from me. So it has to be something that is in this noggin up here to be
Yeah.
able to get it on paper. So earlier, the book I was talking about, it breaks my brain to think of some of the stuff that this lady did. They're not things that this noggin would have come up with.
Oh, yeah.
Like, some of
Thank
the
goodness.
stuff, I'm like, "What?" Yeah, it's don't read it. The other part is you'll know you have it when it's not silly, when your skin crawls, when you feel afraid or like you might cry. The air itself around you gets heavy. It pushes you to the limits of your ability to cope.
Yep. I highlighted that one too.
My hair's getting frizzy. What else? That's all I've highlighted for the rest of that chapter. Anything else you wanna go over?
I did. Actually, there are 2 other bullets. There's a lot of bullets, again, in how you do it, but the one that resonated with me, in addition to how you approach it, was get clear on where your evil is located in your story. Is it supernatural, society at large, a group, or one character in particular? And then the other one, once you've located the evil in your story, consider why it's necessary for you to confront the evil at this time in your life, my life, and what you have to say about it. Is it essential? Again, that goes back to the respect the topic and your approach sort of thing.
There was one more not one more thing I wanted to say about the book, but I just remembered the name of the book that you should not read because 'cause it'll mess up your brain, and it's called If You Tell,
Okay, and it's
and
true.
that was what the mom it's a true story, and it's what the mom used to always threaten her children, "If you tell," and then it was a so the mom knew what she was doing was wrong and that people would see it as wrong, and she used the children against each other to do her thing. And after I read this book, which was completely disturbing, found out a friend of mine, her mother was kind of like this woman.
Oh,
And because I just read the book, I was like, I didn't know what to say.
mm,
And I was literally like, I am so sorry. I mean, clearly people behave this way, but I guess more often than I realized. So, As You Tell Us the book, the author specializes in writing true stories like that. And a lot of times it's a parent that he writes about who is messed up in the brain. So, continuing ed was Breaker Morant. Morant. I had never heard of it either. Did you have anything to say about that?
no, that one was a new one for me. I had not that one or seen it, so I probably won't go looking for it. But there's some others we've had, extra or continuing ed, and I do sometimes look for those. But that one is yeah. No, I don't I like things, and I've said this in other videos. Whenever we do bubbly, happy stuff, it's probably something I recommend or wanted to do. I wanna be happy, I want to do feel good, and so I only want things that foster that feeling, so
Yes. I don't want to walk away from something and be oppressed. Like, "Hmm, I'd like to be happy and oh my goodness, you'll never believe what just happened." Yeah.
alri
And I got the final answer wrong.
you did?
I did. I picked a different answer. And I literally, when I read that one, I was like, no, which makes sense as it being the answer.
Oh, yeah.
It makes sense. But I picked a different one, which I thought made a lot of sense, but apparently I was wrong.
That was well, that's the beauty or the genius of having these mini final exams at the end of the chapter. It's just like, did you get what the point was? And it helps you to take a look at a completely different short vignette
Yeah.
and so forth and reinforce what you learned. So cool beans. All right. Well, that's it for chapter 19 on confronting evil. And that's it for the second part of the book. The next part that we'll come back with is part 3, essential principles of setting dialogue and theme. I'm looking forward to those. Well, I've enjoyed the whole book. You guys have heard me go on about enjoying the whole book, but and we'll be wrapping up 27 essential principles of story
Very soon.
very soon. And so if you've got the book, we hope you do, following along, we'll let you know how we're going to put out the next section of chapters. And if you have any comments about these chapters or others, please put them in the comments below. That helps
Like and
out as
subscribe.
yeah, like and subscribe. And see you next time. Bye.
Bye.